Appreciate you joining me today. It is March 3rd. We are in Numbers still. Yesterday we left off with the spies giving the bad report to the people. And in Numbers chapter 14 we read their reaction. All the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. And the children of Israel complained against Moses and Aaron, and the whole congregation said to them, "If only we had died in the land of Egypt, or if only we had died in this wilderness. Why has the Lord brought us to this land by the sword, that our wives and children should become victims? Would it not be better for us to return to Egypt?" And so they said to one another, "Let us select a leader and return to Egypt." And Moses and Aaron, of course, they are not happy about this, so they fall on their face. Joshua and Caleb, they speak to the congregation saying that we can do this. Don't rebel against the Lord. The Lord says to Moses, verse 11, "How long are these people going to reject me? I'm going to strike them down, and I'm going to make of you a nation greater and mightier than they." That should sound familiar, like Sinai. Moses is going to intercede for the people here, though, which he also did at Sinai, by the way, and uses some of the exact same language, it looks like, and says, "Pardon the iniquity of this people," verse 19. The Lord says, "I have pardoned." The Lord's not going to smite them all, but those who are rebellious, and we know what's going to happen. This is where the Lord says they're going to fall in the wilderness. For every day that they were gone, where it speaks about, verse 34, "According to the number of days in which you spied out the land, 40 days. For each day you shall bear your guilt 1 year, namely 40 years, that you shall know my rejection." And that's what the Lord was going to do. They were not going to enter the promised land, but Caleb and Joshua would, verse 38. And then Israel, Moses relays all the info to Israel, and then Israel says, "Oh, they're real sorry about it, and we're going to come back and look at that, actually." But they try to go up, and kind of a day late and a dollar short. Chapter 15 gets into more of the laws about sacrifices, where it talks about presumptuous sins and things along those lines. Unintentional sins and presumptuous sins. The person who breaks the Sabbath, they were stoned, in those verses there. And then you have the tassels on the garments, another law that was given so that they would look on those tassels and remember. All right, we only had 2 chapters today, Numbers 14 and 15. Let's back up to chapter 14. And the account I want to look more specifically at is the account of after the Lord says they were going to fall in the wilderness, and the people mourn. And let's just look at it. Verse 39. "Then Moses told these words to all the children of Israel, and the people mourned greatly. And they rose early in the morning and went up to the top of the mountain, saying, 'Here we are, and we will go up to the place which the Lord has promised, for we have sinned.' And Moses said, 'Now why do you transgress the command of the Lord? For this will not succeed. Do not go up, lest you be defeated by your enemies, for the Lord is not among you. For the Amalekites and the Canaanites are there before you, and you shall fall by the sword, because you have turned away from the Lord. The Lord will not be with you.' But they presumed to go up to the mountaintop. Nevertheless, neither the ark of the covenant of the Lord nor Moses departed from the camp. And then the Amalekites and the Canaanites who dwelt in that mountain came down and attacked them and drove them back as far as Hormah." The question is, why? Why was the Lord not with them here? And in looking at the account, it's an interesting account, because you just think about what they could have said. And what they could have said, one, they could have said, we are real sorry for what we've done. Because they were real sorry for what they'd done. That's what the account says. There in verse 39, they mourned greatly. And they said, there in verse 40, "We have sinned." So why did the Lord not accept them? They said, "We've sinned," and they mourned greatly. They were real sorry. But the Lord did not accept them. I think they also could have said they were sincere. It's not like they're just putting on, they're not just acting. They are sincere. They are at this point, they're sincere. And they say, okay, we're going to go do this now. So they could have said, we're real sorry, and we are sincerely wanting to do what the Lord told us to do now. And that's the thing. They could have said, but we're doing what the Lord commanded us to do. The Lord wanted us to go up and fight with these people, and now we're doing it. But what I wanted you to see is what Moses told them. When Moses says, verse 41, now why do you transgress the command of the Lord? They could have said, well, we're not transgressing the command of the Lord. And the bottom line is, yes, they were. It was not the time to fight anymore. Now is the time to stand down. That ship had sailed. For this account, that ship had sailed. They're going to be in the wilderness 40 years now. God has spoken, and it's going to happen. Moses isn't going up with them. The Lord's not going up with them. The Ark of the Covenant's not going up with them. They could be sorry all day long, and that's fine. They should have been sorry. They should have mourned greatly. There is much to mourn about, because a lot of these people, some of these people are going to die in the here and now. The ones who came back, it looks like the spies, the 10 spies, not counting Joshua and Caleb, may have already been struck dead from the previous verses. But there are going to be other people who, in all likelihood, in verse 45, died when the Amalekites and the Canaanites drive them back. And then, of course, others are going to die in the wilderness, that generation. But they could so easily have said, but we're being sincere, and we're real sorry. But the bottom line is that they were not obeying what God told them to do. They thought they were, and that's the key. They thought they were, but they were wrong. And that happens a lot of times. People are sincere, and they're real repentant, and they think they're doing the right thing. But they're wrong, because they're not really doing the right thing. They're not really doing what the Lord tells them to do. But they think because of their sincerity and because of their sorrow at the sins they do know about, they think that they're doing what the Lord wants them to do, and they're not. And the Lord's going to hold them accountable, just the same as the Lord held these people accountable. So, it's a sad account. And it's somewhat, when we really back up and look at it, it's somewhat of an odd account. Because on the surface, you would think, oh, now the Lord's going to... No, it's not the time. It's not the time now. Like I said, that ship had sailed. But anyway, I hope the study's been helpful for you. Kind of a sad account, but appreciate you following along with us. Hope you have a good day. Hope you tune in for our next study. Thanks for joining me today.